Please come to order. Good morning. Welcome to the Commissioner of St. Mary's County meeting this date, Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. I am Randy Guide, President and Commissioner of St. Mary's County. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners. Sitting to my right, representing the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Ridge, Piney Point, and St. George Island, Mr. Eric Colvin.
Good morning.
Representing the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown, Hollywood, Mr. Mike Hewitt.
Good morning.
Sitting to my left, representing the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Mr. Mike Alderson Jr.
Good morning.
Representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, Great Mills, and some of Hollywood, Mr. Scott Ostro.
Good morning.
Seated next to Commissioner Ostro at the end of the dais is David Weiskopf, our County Administrator.
Morning.
On my immediate right is Julia Birch, our recorder for today. Sitting at the table to my right is our Communications Director, Jenna Guzman.
Good morning.
Our video media production team is behind the glass. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. When you come to the Commissioner's table, Presenter's table, please approach by coming down the center aisle. And remember, this meeting is being televised, so you need to speak clearly and directly into the microphone for recording purposes. In other words, look good. You're on live TV. At this time, we have the invocation and pledge by Commissioner Hewitt. Please stand.
Dear Lord, we gather today seeking your guidance and wisdom. Bless our discussions and our decisions, and hopefully they may be guided by your will and provide the best outcomes for all our citizens and residents of our county. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Hewitt. Next, we have a presentation this morning.
Consent agenda?
I'm sorry, approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. Okay, next we have a presentation, Circuit Court, the introduction of our newly designated Judge Hill and also Magistrate Sue Ann Armitage. I think Judge Stanalone is going to come down and introduce. Please come forward.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning, everybody. Morning.
Thank you all very much for giving us a few minutes this morning. As you know, we have a new judge, we have a new magistrate. We thought we would take the opportunity to come over and just formally introduce you to them. First, on my right here is Judge Kevin Hill. As you all know, Judge Stamm passed away last year. There was a very vigorous vetting process that goes on, and names were sent to the governor, and Judge Hill was selected by the governor to fill Judge Stamm's vacancy. Judge Hill has extensive knowledge in criminal law from his time in the Public Defender's Office and the State's Attorney's Office, and most recently has been serving for the last 4 years as the family magistrate in the Circuit Court. Because Judge Hill was elevated to the Circuit Court as a judge, that created a vacancy with the magistrate's position. And so seated on my left is Ms. Armitage. Ms. Armitage was one of many people who applied to fill the vacancy in the family magistrate position. We had applications from all of Southern Maryland and the District of Columbia. And Ms. Armitage has over 30 years of experience, primarily in family law. So starting next month, she will take over the magistrate's position and be working in the Circuit Court as our family magistrate. So they're here. We're happy to let them introduce themselves or say some things to you and then answer any questions if you have any. Start with
Mr.
Judge
Hill?
Good morning to all of you, and I've met all of you. I feel like I know all of you, so once again, good morning. Judge Stanalone did a phenomenal job of giving a brief description of what led me to being appointed as a judge. I'm very humbled by that. I was asked earlier this morning, how does it feel? And the short answer is I have no idea. It is such a mix of emotions. As I take on this task, Judge Stanalone has been phenomenal of onboarding me to have a training schedule that I'm beginning the process of now, which hopefully will be finished about the middle of September, and then I should be on my own to preside cases as a judge. So it's all kind of a whirlwind as I settle in, and fortunately we have Sue Ann Armitage coming in pretty quickly, so we have a smooth transition, and hopefully we'll be off and running and get these cases dealt with in an efficient fashion.
Great. Thank you, sir. Ms. Armitage.
Good morning. I think I do know most of you all and have had the privilege of being in your presence many times and appreciate the service that you give to this great county of ours. As some of you may know, I have been practicing law in this county for over 30 years. Born and raised here. Find this to be the greatest place to live in the state of Maryland, and I'm happy and humbled to serve as the next magistrate. I appreciate Judge Dan Lunas giving me the opportunity, and Judge Lorenzini, and I look forward to taking things off the plate of the judges and working hard for this county, just like all of you do. So thank you for having us here this morning.
Thank you for stepping up. Thank you. Thank all of you for stepping up and serving our county. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone have a great day, great week.
Thank you very much, sir.
You.
You all.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, prisoners.
Next, we have about a minute here to rearrange things. We're not going to have the recognition program here for Maryland Star of Life recipients recognition. You ready? Okay. Commissioners, let's go forward, please.
These are in order, and this is the ones that weren't here, but just in case. So, I did talk to the first person, he's gonna with the commissioner. And I'll hold everybody in there, so you guys just make sure to get it in.
So I can see you. Okay, good morning. So each year, the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services Systems recognizes individuals or teams of first responders for their outstanding contributions in the community with a Star of Life Award. The award focuses on clinical excellence, particularly those responders who demonstrate exceptional skill and the ability to operate under extreme conditions. On November 6, 2024, at 7 p.m., St. Mary's and Charles County Fire, Rescue, and EMS units were dispatched with a report of a motor vehicle collision with rescue. Off-duty Mechanicsville Rescue Squad member Jimmy Breeden and off-duty Mechanicsville Fire Department member TJ Fonts heard the call and responded to the scene. Pardon me. They found a single vehicle which had left the roadway and struck a tree. Inside was a single passenger, a 16-year-old male who was heavily entrapped with obvious multi-system trauma. The force of the crash compromised the structural steel of the car, leaving him with immediate life-threatening injuries. The pair of first responders worked together to apply direct pressure to a serious wound and activated Maryland State Police Aviation prior to the arrival of EMS units. Mechanicsville Squad 2 and Hughesville Squad 2 arrived and worked rapidly to extricate the unconscious patient. EMS Lieutenant Heather Forrest, paramedic Amy Miller, paramedic intern Ellie Mason, EMTs Brian Bowen, Ashley Corley, Kaylee Moore, and Bethany Higgs arrived and conducted a rapid trauma assessment. Upon transfer of patient from the vehicle, the EMS crew quickly stabilized the most critical injuries until the transfer of care to Trooper 7. Trooper 7 administered whole blood to the patient, who then regained consciousness in the ambulance. The trooper flew the patient to the R. Adams Kelly Shock Trauma Center in Baltimore, where teams of doctors, nurses, and therapists work around the clock to triage and treat his injuries. We are pleased to share that this patient has returned to our community and is continuing to recover from his injuries at home due to the actions of these first responders. Rural communities in Maryland depend on the dedication of highly skilled first responders in conjunction with coordinated efforts of fire, EMS, and aviation. This allows for immediate, life-saving treatment as well as the expedited transport of critically injured patients to trauma centers. This call accentuates the vital role of all partners within the Maryland EMS system, and in particular, the importance in Southern Maryland to get patients to the appropriate facility as quickly as possible. Today, we are most grateful to the Commissioner's support as we celebrate the ordinary people who perform extraordinary work in our communities each day. Above all, we send our continued well wishes to the family affected by this incident and wish him all the best on his healing journey. Commissioners, thank you for your time and for always recognizing the work that we do in emergency services in our first responder community. At this time, we will call up the first responders who were able to make it today, and thank you to everyone for your continued support of emergency services. Zach Saylor. Alex Calabro. Amy Miller. Allison Mason. Kaylee Moore. Bethany Higgs. Bill Hemming. Landon Johnson. TJ Fonts. Jimmy Breeden. Rick Feist. Todd Connick. Trevor Simpson. Okay, those who were unable to attend, Ryan Rayleigh and Ashley Corley. Is there anyone else in the audience that I missed that is in attendance today? Okay, and then also EMT Brian Bowen, Lieutenant Heather Forrest, Keith Hemming, Delonte Herbert, Kaylin Thompson, and Mark Trowbridge. If we could please have one round of applause for all these first responders.
I identify as tall today. In my head as I usually do.
Okay, getting on to our main agenda item here, we have the Office of the County Attorney, discussion and request for direction, future text amendments for fuel service stations studied by staff and moratorium. Mr. John Sterling, Attorney. President.
Good morning, Commissioners. Your agenda item today is, as Commissioner President Guy just said, is a discussion and request for direction. No definite action to control expectations up front. No specific proposals right now. Just a quick or moderately long, however the Commissioners prefer, discussion on a topic that has come up here and there over time I at least have been in the County Attorney's office, and that was brought to the County Attorney's attention by a commissioner a few months ago to ask us to look into for. That topic being the perceived prevalence from some quarters in the community about a overproliferation or oversaturation of gas stations in St. Mary's County, and what, if anything, current zoning regulations do about that, or say about that, and what, if anything, they might be able to do in the future if the commissioners agree or at least feel that it's worth looking into more in the future about whether that perceived oversaturation is indeed something that might be there. We did say the word moratorium, just to be upfront about that one. A moratorium is just one of the potential options the commissioners would have to look into this, as staff look into it, if the commissioners feel it would be in the public interest to get more attention and more thorough analysis of this issue in front of them. It's not a binary choice between one or the other. It's just one of the options in front of the commissioners. By way of explaining the detail in a little bit more, by my reckoning, there are approximately 45 gas stations in St. Mary's County right now, give or take, with another 3 that are currently permitted and at or near stages of completion. Those gas stations are not evenly divided across the county. Roughly half of them are in zip codes 20622 or the greater Lexington Park Development District, which includes 20653, zip code 20619 or portions thereof, and portions of 20636. Something I have seen in my experience with the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals, when they have public hearings on proposed gas stations, and we've had about 5 projects come through in my time the last 3.5 years, you do frequently see members of the community show up, express an opinion that a gas station in a particular place is unnecessary because there is already one or more or multiple gas stations in close physical proximity to the proposed gas station. And these public comments often exhort the Planning Commission or the Board of Appeals, as is appropriate, to take action on that or to look at that as some reason to deny or review with greater detail the proposed concept site plan. One of the attachments to this memorandum is a sampling of public comments, and it is only that, a sampling. That is not an exhaustive list. The actual numbers, there are about a dozen public comments that I thought give the commissioners of what type of comments are expressed and what opinions we see there. The actual numbers, if we go back to the concept site plan hearings or appeals or variance requests that are referenced in the memorandum, are about 65 public comments, the vast majority of them, and that's written public comments only. I did not go back to the tapes and pull verbal or in-person testimony, but 65 comments, the vast majority of those were against projects, but that's also the nature of public hearings typically. Of those comments that are in opposition, about 35 across those hearings specifically called out a perceived oversaturation or overprevalence of gas stations in the area where that particular one was being proposed. And keep in mind, again, that are only opinions being addressed at the public hearing. If we took those 35 as a percentage of all the residents of St. Mary's County, that's about 3/10,000ths of a percentage point of people of St. Mary's County who have been polled. But it's offered not because that necessarily is the people's will, but just information before the commissioners to help you read the tea leaves as it is of where the community may be at on this project. My opinion, County Attorney's Office, is that those complaints, when they're brought to the Planning Commission or the Board of Appeals right now, are not actionable. Community need or the perceived oversaturation of a particular use is simply not one of the standards that our comprehensive zoning ordinance directs staff or a Planning Commission or the Board of Appeals to review. There are only 4 instances in our comprehensive zoning ordinance where there is a proposed use where that takes into account. None of them gas stations and none of them conditional uses in general, just 4 very specific uses, namely commercial cell towers, private waste transfer stations or recycling facilities, new water-dependent facilities in the critical area, and educational facilities in the Rural Preservation District. For whatever reason, that's just where the drafters of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance said we should inquire as to a community need for proposed use, but nowhere else. Other counties do have different regulations. Other counties do require, for gas stations or gas stations of a size, various other standards that we do not. Those standards sometimes include a demonstration of a community need or a public need, or showing that there is an actual market demand in the proposed neighborhood. Some counties also have restrictions or setbacks where gas stations may not locate within X feet of another gas station or another sensitive use. There's nothing stopping St. Mary's County from doing that, but that's not the law as it is right now. Where we stand right now is just, having said that, whether the commissioners feel the issue is something worthwhile for staff to devote further resources to. And that's really where we are at. It's simply a prudential decision by the commissioners of whether trying to explore more definite proposals or bring something specific in front of you is proper and a justifiable use of staff's time and resources and attention in light of other demands right now. Among the options we do have is you could direct staff to look at a zoning text amendment and bring something forward to you. That zoning text amendment could be directly considered by the commissioners. You would also have the option to refer it to the Planning Commission for further review and study or recommendation by the Planning Commission. You have, for specific use types, solar farms come to mind, also created task forces in the past. And then also, as an option that has been floated as an explicit possibility, you might also consider a moratorium on the use during the pendency of the study or until such other times there's time to allow staff to study, to digest an issue, and then bring some definite recommendation back to the commissioners at that later time. With that introduction of the issue, I open myself up to further questions, and again, just seek direction from the commissioners on whether we should devote more time and attention to this or not.
Mr. Hauser, I want to thank you for all the work you did and the thorough explanation too. I think you did a really good job giving an overview of this. And personally, I think being able to give our Planning Commission some additional tools to look at, it doesn't ban anything, it doesn't prevent anything from going in, but it gives them the tools to be able to say, is there a community need? Does it meet the the need for the community, that makes sense to me. That seems like a very reasonable option to bring forward, I would think. And so I'd like to see this take the next step to take a look at that.
Well, I personally like the neighborhood need for these services, because you said you had 3 gas stations, service stations, gas stations in the works right now, and I believe 2 of those 3 are in Charlotte Hall, the Sheets and the Fuel Island at the Weiss.
That's correct, Commissioner Alderson. The other third is the Royal Farms in California, between the Royal Farms in Lexington Park and further up the road, the Royal Farms in Charlotte Hall.
So I know I've heard a lot personally from people in the northern end of the county in my district saying that, you know, we have enough gas stations. I mean, and I think they're not too far off, because if my math is correct, we're looking at 7 total, just north of Route 236, Thompson Corner Road to the county line. You're looking at 7 gas stations. That's be the Sheets, the Weiss, Solo, 7-Eleven, Exxon, Wawa, and Rural Farms. And I think what just the thought occurred to me while you're going through your very thorough explanation is that the northern part of the county, especially Charlotte Hall, is starting to remind me of a miniature version of Breezewood. And if you've ever been to Breezewood, you've seen where there's I think it's 81 that comes there, and you go on one side to get fireworks, and the other side is all the fast food and gas stations you could ever think of seeing. I like the idea of people coming into St. Mary's County, leaving their money and going home. I do like that, but I don't want to attract them with just gas stations. And I think it does a disservice to the people in the northern end of the county to just give them options of convenience stores and gas stations and fast food restaurants. So, and there, we do have a record of, let me see, Gray Mills, Chancellor's Run Road. There's a gas station that was last operational, I believe, in 1989. It's still sitting there as abandoned property. And several other gas, and probably a couple other gas stations I'm going to forget to talk about. And I don't want to see those turn into dilapidated properties like we have down there.
I would have concerns about a moratorium. I don't believe it's appropriate or our place to tell people what they can and cannot do with their rightfully owned property. As someone who has worked for a major corporation, Safeway to be exact, and I sat on one of the panels that actually looks at new sites and new locations and where they're going to build. All these companies, Safeway, Royal Farms, you name it, they have people dedicated to doing the research on whether or not there is a need in that area or whether or not that location would be successful. I would be in favor of having people produce a needs study that actually shows the need for that in that area, and having that go forward to the Planning Commission so they can then review that. But I am not in favor of telling people that you cannot do something with your property.
So, Commissioner, I can expound on a potential moratorium, both, I think, pros and, well, cons, and maybe 1 or 2 pros I can divine in it. First, understand that moratorium, when we say that, a moratorium is a temporary prohibition on a particular use, or it could be general. There is precedent in Maryland of some counties just making general moratoria on more or less everything. You often see that in the lead up to a comprehensive plan or a new rollout of the comprehensive code. Even something that broad is constitutional or has been found constitutional in certain cases. Again, as long as there's a rational basis to the public interest, as long as it's temporary in restriction, as long as there is some pursuit of it in good faith, that we're not just stopping development for the sake of stopping development with some idea of what the permanent solution is. Moratorium at this stage, we do not have any commercial gas station under site plan review. There are no pending applications right now. The 3 we've got going up right now have been through concept site plan, have been through their public hearings, have their validly issued permits. My understanding is there's been substantial construction begun on all of them, even the Royal Farms in California. The moment you have begun substantial construction on a project pursuant to a validly issued, legally conforming permit, you have a constitutional right to build that out under the laws that existed when you got that permit. Up until that point, though, an intervening legislative change in the standards or the rules, if the legislative body would choose to make that retrospective to pending applications, can divest someone of their right to keep building up under their permits, which is my way of saying that don't issue a moratorium, don't entertain any other thought of it. If somebody applies for a gas station in a new location tomorrow, I think Lugum's lead time is that for a new project completely out of the blue where you're working through a concept site plan, major site plan, minimum 12 to 18 months development cycle. That's more than enough time to give time staff to study this and present a potential change, and you have not lost your ability to stop any worrisome project or concerning project through a subsequent legislative change. The only real pro of a moratorium that I can divine right now is that if that's where the commissioners sense a lean in a certain direction and feel that's going away, it is a clear signal to private industry that laws are changing, that they may want to hold off and not expend further development or further expenditures in pursuit of a project that may not go through under a new set of laws. But strictly speaking, even if they do, they don't have a legal right to continue build out of that project if the laws change mid-development cycle.
Like I said, I would prefer to see a needs study produced.
So I think it feels like the consensus is more towards a text amendment to give the zoning, or to give the Planning Commission and Board of Appeals tools to use versus a moratorium.
So if that is the consensus, then I think the next thing we'd look for direction on is how would the commissioners like us to go about preparing them.
Well, tell me, before we go to consensus, because I'm not sure we built it yet, is what's the text amendment look like? I would assume that there's some detriment to the citizens of the county in this. And if somebody doesn't like the newest idea that's come out for fuel stations, that's fine. But I think what we've heard overwhelmingly when we see things is people want more recreational activities in the northern part of the county. That's something that's definitely been overlooked up there. I mean, we've done so much down in the Lexington Park, Great Mills area, and we've done very little in the northern part. Now, the reason these fuel stations come about, and honestly, it's public knowledge, I own one, and my father started one in 1964. And the key is, it's because people need fuel. Now, capitalism is what this country is based on. This guy Adam Smith, back with his Wealth of Nations directive back, in 1700s, talked about, this is an opportunity for people to take their ideas and capitalize on them, follow the rules, follow the zoning, and come up with a better mousetrap, come up with a better idea. Now, the fuel facilities have morphed. I came from the days of a couple gas pumps out front with some bays with some techs working in there and fixing cars and stuff like that. It's morphed into people want food. People want good food. They want the opportunity to get supplies they need, whether it be milk or whatever it needs, on a short-term basis. So when someone talks about whether it be a moratorium or even a text amendment, that it sounds like we're trying to restrict something that's not for the good of the community. And tell me, where is the detriment here in these things, other than the fact that you think there's enough? Because in your opinion, I'm not talking about you, Counselor. I mean, someone's opinion, there's enough. Tell me, where's the detriment there?
I can, typical lawyer answer about to come out, I can make arguments for and against this one. And where we are right now is not a question, I think, whether the commissioners can implement a text amendment. Whether the commissioners should implement a text amendment, though, that's something only the 5 commissioners can decide, whether they think it's in the public interest. What I can speak to you as a matter of law is that where courts have identified a valid expression of the public good is your typical police powers. Local regulations to advance the health, safety, and general welfare of the public people. Land use isn't anything interesting or new to local government. My interesting fact of the day is that the first codified law that we know of is about 4,050 years old. It was passed by some tyrant named Enshanu in the lower Mesopotamia and in Shanu saw fit to tell you when and when you could not open your irrigation channels and risk flooding your neighbor's fields. Local government exercising restraints on your use of your property to keep peace between you and your neighbor is something we've been doing since the dawn of time, or at least organized society. And the only question right now is what degree we do it to. U.S. courts and Maryland's courts have generally found it constitutional when it can be tied to the public good. Public good is not economic protectionism or protecting existing businesses. It's not strictly that we like the people who are already, think they should be able to compete unimpeded without having to basically challenge themselves against newer, innovative neighbors coming in and offering competing products. What Maryland's courts have for about 75 years recognized, though, is the right of county governments through zoning regulations, through comprehensive plans, to determine whether a particular proposed use at a location is the best and highest or an overall net benefit use of that land. And I think the specific example, it's a case called Lucky Stores. It comes out of, I believe, Montgomery County, which has treated fuel stations as a conditional use since 1953 and declared a community need for them, is not this idea that the fuel station is a detriment to other competitors, but that fuel station in a neighborhood, however we're going to define neighborhood, the need is already met, and that another fuel station would be cumulative and that the community may be better solved or served by another use that would come up on that land that isn't in that community or where it is serving a need that isn't fully met. The idea being that land, particularly developable land, particularly commercially viable developable land, is a finite resource that in some circumstances must be shepherded. That's not my opinion. I left my Adam Smith tie at home today. It exists. It's hanging up in the closet. But that is something the courts have recognized is lawful for county governments,
Well, this
local
one
governments to do.
specifically talks to fuel facilities. What's next? Dollar Generals, vape stores, car washes, liquor stores? I mean, I know we already looked at liquor store legislation. They did it in Annapolis where they said if you got 4,000 people in the area, that's probably enough liquor stores. I mean, look, if Annapolis wants to do that, that's their job. I just don't think it's our job to tell someone what to do with their property.
I mean, we already do, though. don't we?
Tell me, what are you talking about?
Our comprehensive plan and zoning. We
Oh, well,
say
that-
you can do this on this land, you can't do this on this land. I mean, that's what zoning is.
No, I understand zoning. The key gets to be, though, is we're trying to talk about amendment that targets fuel facilities. It's targeted. Now, what makes that fair, any more fair to the people who want to do Dollar Generals, or want to do vape stores, or want to do liquor stores, or anything else? I mean, something like this may want to look at something that's more wide-ranging, because I still don't understand what the text amendment will look like.
That's something to seek. Well, before I get on that, to answer the original point, what could be next of the list of potential uses you named, Commissioner Hewitt? The only one I would advise isn't within county commissioner's ambit to potentially, if they decide it's in the public interest, to bring in or could potentially look at this in the future, liquor stores, just because there is a state law that has already established a quota that I think implicitly preempts us from determining community need beyond that, just because state overrules us and there's a law on the books. But of the other list, potentially you could, and other counties have, and I don't relish the idea of having to come back in front of you and present similar proposals to this 4 or 5 times in the future on storage units, vape stores, Dollar Generals, car washes, all of which have been named in planning commission hearings within the last month and a half. And
Could
It's a
we,
fact.
because I agree with Commissioner Hewitt. I don't think it's appropriate to target a specific, we're talking about gas stations, so I mean, is it possible, is it feasible, would it be agreeable with the commissioners if we put something out that no matter what you're trying to build, right, you need to do a needs study, if that is a need in the community? I don't know if that's a viable thought or not.
I think my concern with that, I'm not opposed to the idea. I think the concern is we don't want, the fuel stations tend to be larger corporations that have the means to be able to look at that, but we don't want to impede small business that's trying to get started. So if someone's opening a hair salon, that's a locally run, locally owned business, they shouldn't have to do a needs study. That's not necessary for that. And I think the key here to what Mr. Hauser is talking about is that we're not taking away anyone's ability to build a gas station. We are giving the Planning Commission an additional tool to be able to look at, is this needed in this location? So that's one of the things that I think we've consistently heard, is that our Planning Commission is hamstringed by lack of ability, their very narrow scope of what they can look at. And this just gives them a little bit more ability to evaluate new projects.
Can
or
the
new-
planning commission ask for a needs study now?
I would tell you probably not, because the way we are most used is the way I could shoehorn in an argument, and it's not one that I'm particularly confident in, but the only way I could is that you do have one of the standards of any use right now, the concept that they have to find in concept site plan is that a project has to advance the public health, safety, and
I
general
would
welfare.
truly think that any major corporation is going to put millions of dollars into building something, has already done a needs
Believe me,
study.
they have.
They've already done that. There's no doubt in my mind. When I went in business the first time, I did a sort of study, and I went into business. I was driven out because of bigger businesses came in and drove me out of business. That's just the nature of the way things go in certain businesses. Now, I think we're afraid that these large corporations are coming here building these big gas stations, but they're providing food service, milk, eggs, whatever. And it's a convenience store as well as a gas station for a lot of people. But I think the more of these you have, probably, we got a lot of them now, it keeps the price of our fuel costs down for most of our people.
Yes.
It's to me, it's a correction, if nothing else, for everybody. It helps us. I'm not against. I'm not for a moratorium whatsoever. And as far as a needs study, I figured that somebody's going to spend millions of dollars. I mean millions to build something.
Done it.
They're going to have done a study. They know it. They know it's needed in that area. And the northern end has had a lot of punishment because of all the growth that went there. But now they got 2 more grocery stores going in. They got one there already, Food Line. So to them, they probably are happy about that. They're not happy about all the road construction that has been going on now for the last 6 months or so. But it's made an improvement. And I trust our planning commission will make the right decision to make sure these people that come in there, they do the right thing as far as doing road improvements and things like that, and provide good, safe intersections and everything else for the people. And I do believe that they're going to do a good job of doing that. I can't imagine them spending all this money just to put another gas station up. We probably won't get any more in the county. I don't think. I don't know. I know we got some that are looking at it, but I'm not for any kind of moratorium for sure. And I don't think we need to push into another law for a needs study. I'm against that.
Well, I think, too, that, Mr. Hauser, correct me if I'm wrong, but the process here is you would just take this back to draft the ordinance, which we would then have another opportunity to review and take to public hearing to get feedback from our residents, whether or not they want it. And so we'd be able to hear very clearly if the community is in favor of this or opposed to this.
And that's the request. What we're seeking for right now, again, is direction. Is it worthwhile of staff's time and putting resources into coming up with something a little bit more concrete? Because Commissioner Guy, I do hear it. Certainly the large companies aren't spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in development fees and engineering fees and attorney fees if necessary, just to get a permit to put someplace up where they may or may not make money. And I've been in the county 31
These companies are
years.
looking at their own bottom line.
Right.
Are we going to make money if we put something in this location? That's what they're looking at. And I believe Commissioner Hewitt actually a couple of meetings ago, I thought it was quite, right, if you can build a better mousetrap, then I'm going to make money. So I don't see these companies just putting something in that, oh, well, maybe it'll make money or maybe it won't. These guys already know it's going to make money and that there's a need in the community. I would agree with that.
Right. The other thing to keep in mind is that if we do wind up creating a standard that companies have done this, they put out a market study that's presumptively correct. Have we just created another, well, if they check the box, it is tantamount to a presumption that they're entitled to improvement, whatever the community comes out to say. The alternative is create a standard that is a little bit more, for lack of a better term, vague, that gives a little bit more discretion to the Planning Commission or the Board of Appeals to decide more case by case. The potential downside there is that then do we have a process, or would we create something that's too open-ended, too vague, that it's prone to accusations that a decision is arbitrary and capricious, or, at a minimum, has made the development review cycle so unpredictable that it discourages development. And again, which gets back to the point Commissioner Colvin originally made before we got off on this particular discussion, is this something worth looking into to try and more definitely figure out these questions? Because this candidly probably isn't the type of discussion that we can solve in 15, 20, 30, however long we would give it this morning. It probably does take a lengthy amount of time to study, to look more thoroughly at other counties, how they do that, what are the outcome differences there, if any, between us and them. Because just off the top of my head, Charles County does have special exceptions, what we would call a conditional use, for its fueling stations over 3,500 square feet. Calvert County, when I reviewed its zoning ordinance, appears to disallow fueling stations in most areas but its town centers, and in most zoning districts within its town centers treats it as our equivalent of conditional use. Other counties, Howard, Montgomery, Prince George's, Anne Arundel, to one extent or another at least, also have conditional use standards. And I think it's just, do you want us to look at these, see if we can get something that might work in St. Mary's County, that might actually create a meaningful change in how these types of future projects work, or is it better left the way it is right now?
I think it's better left the way it is right now. I think you got enough to do, Counselor. And whatever you come up with, because I can't really see a clear vision of what it's going to look like, when I see I pay 40 cents cheaper for gasoline on Route 235 than I go across the bridge and pay at Calvert County, I think that's a benefit to our residents. The fact that we are able to let capitalism work, let competition work, and let people say, if I want my share, I got to cut my margin. And I don't think that's something that needs to be corrected. Now, if someone were to say, there's a public health safety hazard there, not sure what it is. Now, if it was vape stores, again, I'd say that's a public health hazard. Liquor stores, look at the detriment from the liquor. But the key here is, I don't think you need to do anything. I think that's a waste of time.
Well, I slightly disagree. I think it doesn't hurt to have the county attorney's office take a look at this and bring us something back. It's not locking us into anything. And I think one area that it seems to be a consistent struggle with the Planning Commission is State Highway and how they rate a road versus what the users of the road actually experience, and gas stations impede that at times. So there's just one potential benefit that could be looked at. Again, not opposed to lower gas prices. There is a certain level of irony that we're talking about this when Calvert County's losing their minds about the price of gas over there, but there's a lot of different factors that factor into that. And so anyway, for fun, I'll make the motion. I move to direct the county attorney's office and the Department of Land Use and Growth Management to consider, draft, and make recommendations to the county commissioners to approve or disapprove the adoption of an ordinance to amend the text of the comprehensive zoning ordinance regarding future fuel sale locations.
Second.
Stations.
Second.
Got a first and second by roll call vote, starting with Commissioner Ostro.
No.
No?
Yay.
Yay?
Yay.
Yay?
No.
No? No?
Okay. Thank you for all your work on this, Mr. Hauser.
Thank you very much, Hauser.
Counselor.
Motion.
Always a pleasure.
Commissioners, my pleasure. Hope you have a good morning, and thanks for your time this morning.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to the county administrator time.
Thank you, Commissioner President Guy. And as always, we'll start with the draft agendas for July 29th and August 19th. There will be no meetings of the commissioners on August 5th and August 12th. On Tuesday, July 29th, you'll start at your normal time and place, followed by 2 commendations. One for Henry Broderson's volunteer recognition, and another for a retirement of Mr. Chris Casalemas, followed by county administrator time, commissioner's time, adjourn, and then have a public forum at 6:30 that night. On August 19th, you'll meet at your normal time and place, followed by 3 proclamations, one for Aviation Day, one for Child Support Awareness Month, and one for National Black Business Month, followed by county administrator time, commissioner's time, followed by a closed session for legal strategy, and then adjourn. And first on today is the Sheriff's Office with the purchase of upgraded software and equipment using locally forfeited funds. Ms. Lottie Bell and Captain Willenborg, welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Morning.
This submission before you is requesting purchase an upgrade to existing software to advance criminal investigations and equipment to enhance the capabilities of the emergency services team using locally forfeited funds. There is a reoccurring increase of $24,065 associated with the upgrade of the software, which would need to be put in IT's budget in FY27, and we could do that as a cost change if you approve this today. The equipment for the EST equipment is a one-time only request, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Tell me, you said there's a $24,000 yearly upgrade?
It's
That
the
gets to be
cost.
pretty expensive over time, doesn't it?
Very expensive.
And what's it going to do for you that you can't do now?
Collect evidence. Basically, we have a system for collecting evidence in criminal cases. I don't want to go into detail, but it's a piece of software that allows us to access certain data on certain devices.
I guess I won't, I don't want to know about that. My point is that that's just a very costly, recurring fee every year.
Yes.
I mean, what makes this stuff so expensive? Is it
Proprietary.
proprietary? Who else uses it?
Every law enforcement agency in the country.
Really?
Yes.
We're the only one in the whole country that doesn't use it.
No, we currently use it.
This is an up-
But the upgrade.
We've got a bottleneck. We've got evidence we can't access because we can only do so many at a time. So we need to get more ports on the box.
That 24,000 struck me as a lot.
Now, the 24,000, that's an increase to the annual fee.
Correct.
Because
Correct.
we're already paying 30-some thousand.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's quite an increase, though.
That's an additional 24,000.
Correct.
But that's yearly, right? So it goes from 30 to 50-some thousand.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Well, if it's the cost of doing, it's the cost of doing business. So tell me, when you get locally forfeited funds, now, I don't know what that means other than say, okay, you raid somebody, they have drugs, they have cash, you get to take the cash. Where'd the funds come from? Where do forfeited funds come from?
From criminal cases, drug seizures, property seizures, and it's the
From bad
commissioners.
guys.
From bad guys, yes.
But then we got an additional recurring cost starting in 2027,
I know, I just heard.
$24,000.
Yeah, that's what she just
Correct.
said.
So I support this, of course, but it is noteworthy. I hope Ms. Van Cleve's paying attention that this, I think, is our first decision for next year's budget that we will officially
Already,
make.
yeah.
Well, consistently, you've had money that you've returned to us. So if this kind of money, makes you more efficient, gives you a better product at the end of the day, or allows you to do your job better, then, I support it too.
Right.
I move to approve the sheriff's request for concurrence to purchase upgraded software and equipment for investigative purposes using locally forfeited funds and the related budget amendment to realign accounts within Project 2409 LF.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any disapprovals? Ayes have it. Thank you all.
Thank you. And next up from the Sheriff's Office is the Equitable Sharing Agreement and Certification for fiscal year 2025.
So the annual certification report before you now is a summary of the equitable sharing activity for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. In FY25, $4,777.50 in federally forfeited funds was received. There were no expenditures in FY25. Your approval of this report is requested so it may be submitted in accordance with the equitable sharing agreement.
Who are you sharing the money with? Equitable sharing, who are you sharing it with?
It's federally forfeited funds, so basically we participate in a federal task force,
Okay. So it's the Fed money.
the Fed
Get
money.
a share of it.
Well, the point is, I support that.
I move to approve the annual equitable sharing agreement and certification for FY 2025 from the Department of Justice on behalf of the St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office and authorize the Commissioner President to execute the related documents and Sheriff's Office staff to submit electronically.
Second. I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you. And last up from the Sheriff's Office is for the fiscal year 2026 Sex Offender Compliance and Enforcement in Maryland Grant Award from GOCAP.
This grant will continue to cover a portion of the salary and fringe costs for the administrative support relative to the sex offender registry clerical duties. This grant allocation for St. Mary's County under this, for this year is $12,772 with no match required. Funding for this grant is included in the 26 budget. However, a budget amendment is attached to decrease the grant funding to the actual award and to realign in accordance with setup. We respectfully request your approval of this grant
So is there
award.
county match in this or not?
No, sir.
Okay.
So this is free money.
Yes.
Yes, sir. It supplements county money to pay for the position is what it does.
And Captain, I'd be derelict of duty if I didn't ask you how many sex offenders we got.
Currently,
Are we
as
on the
of-
rise, or on the lower?
As of yesterday, 132. It goes up and down. The same time last year, I think we had 140.
Okay. Let's keep it going down.
And the
Does this-
majority
this-
of those are Tier 3 violators.
Is this fund in jeopardy of being cut next year?
That's a
I mean,
question I
you-
can't answer,
You
sir.
got so many things that are being cut or changed or reduced, and
It is state funded.
Yeah.
And it's a minimal amount, so
okay.
we hope that it doesn't, but we, don't have a crystal ball.
Just for informational, do people ever get off this list? Once they're on it, they stay on it? How's that work?
Depends if they're,
I mean, I'm not interested in getting sex offenders off. I mean, no.
there's,
Don't understand how it works. Once you're on there for the rest of your life?
there's 3 tiers. Tier 1 is a 15-year registrant. They're on the registry for 15 years. Tier 2 is 25 years, and Tier 3 is lifetime.
We have any Tier
Majority are Tier 3, lifetime.
A majority are Tier 3s.
Right. So currently, we have 90 that are Tier 3, 18 that are Tier 2, and 24 that are Tier 1.
Oh, man.
Wow.
All right, I move to approve the FY 2026 Sex Offender Compliance and Enforcement in Maryland Grant Award from the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy on behalf of the St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office in the amount of $12,772. I further move to approve the budget amendment to decrease the state grant funding and realign the non-grant funding in the project to the sheriff's accounts to cover the non-grant salary fringe costs and authorize the Commissioner President and Sheriff to execute the related documents and staff to submit electronically.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is from the Department of Economic Development with the Business Site Readiness Grant Application. Director Chris Casalemas approaching with Deputy Director Kelly Hinkle. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Today, we're asking Commissioners to approve approval to pursue a $500,000 grant from the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, MEDCO, for their Business Site Improvement Grant Program. On December 19th in 2024, Governor Wes Moore announced the launch of the Maryland Business Ready Sites Program, an initiative to boost economic growth by developing shovel-ready sites statewide. The program provides $3.5 million in matching grants for site characterization and site improvements designed to accelerate investment across Maryland. A quote from the press release, "By providing financial support to defray the costs of site characterization and site improvements and providing collaborative marketing support, this program will enable significant investment across Maryland from the leading industries of today and tomorrow." So as we've talked about before, the county owns about 14 acres of developable land in the Aero Park Innovation District on the west end. This land is adjacent to the runway and will have runway access. This is the only significant vacant developable county land south of the runway. The county has engaged MEDCO previously to perform site analysis work for the property, and they're almost done with that work as they're finishing it up now. The concept plan, which I included in your board packet, includes 5 hangars with runway access, the extension of Airport Road, and 2 commercial buildings without runway access. And there was a schematic in your board packet, as I said. So site improvement grants support costs, including infrastructure upgrades, environmental remediation, and other development needs. The grants are up to $500,000. Qualified sites must be at least 5 acres and in a pre-development phase. Eligible sites must be intended exclusively for industrial or commercial use. Public entities are eligible to apply. The work by Medico on the county's West End site makes this site eligible to apply for the site improvement grant. So again, they have basically 2 components, a site characterization grant, which is, I think, $10,000, and site improvement. The work they're doing for us now and finishing up is site characterization. So that all that preliminary work to kind of see the lay of the land and doing tests of the land, all that work, that makes it so we don't have to apply for the first grant. We move on to the second stage, which is the larger chunks of money, the $500,000 grants. There is a match of 3-to-1 expected. All the work that we've already done at the airport, all the funds, that can go towards that. We had discussions with them. We're not asking for any additional county funds. We talked to them, and we think that'll all qualify for the match.
So 3-to-1 would mean we have to put up $1.5 million?
1.5, but we won't have to do that because we've already previously spent money in the Aero Park Innovation District, which will qualify for that.
But we get the 3, they get the 1.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Does this include redevelopment of, say, an existing something?
The grant program, I think it does. I'll ask Kelly.
I'm sorry, I
Vacant-
didn't
like
hear the
an ex-
question.
or would this funding include redevelopment of something that's already existing and vacant
No, it'd be new construction.
construction?
Yes.
Greenfields. So things such as title work, utility work, extensions of utilities is a big thing, upgrades, transportation improvements, pedestrian access, all those types of things. It really gets us to the point where somebody can come in and just put the buildings up. And we do have some interest. We have at least 3 developers who said they're interested in kind of collaborating with the county and doing this. Also,
what
Medco.
what types of development from these developers?
Well, I'm not sure exactly the question, but we're talking about hangars, basically.
Okay, so
Five
this is all at the airport.
all West End Airport, 5 hangars with runway access, and then 2 additional buildings, which would be on the other side, kind of not with runway access. And Medco could also be a partner for us in this. But again, we have private sector interest in participating and saying, if you get that site already, we'll put up those buildings. The county would then lease it to them, long-term lease for a minimal amount. They would recoup their investment by getting lease payments.
I think this grant's a great idea. We've talked about trying to do something with that West End for years now.
Yes.
And I thought we were under we were working to run water and sewer out there to those locations. Did we ever get anywhere with that, or maybe even cable for internet and stuff like that? Did we ever get anywhere with that?
So I can ask Kelly for additional information. My understanding is the work that Medco already is doing now kind of says where all the utilities are, where the extensions need to be. They're not actually moving those
Okay, so we haven't
utilities.
actually done anything.
They haven't actually moved the utilities yet. And I also note that Gary Whipple's in the audience, and he hasn't been notified, but if there's any questions regarding airport, I think this is all going to be part of the airport master plan that he's finishing up, so he can help answer any of those types of questions. But again, we have not extended those utilities. They've been extended as far as what the development you see now, but not right to the site that we're talking about.
Well, I just think it's a great idea to ask for the grant, and I think we'd have a great chance of qualifying.
I think especially since Medco's already done the first part of our work, we're to kind of have our foot in the door. We have a pretty good relationship with them, so I think there's a good chance we can get the grant.
Yes, I was going to ask what's your level of confidence with it, because it sounds like it's not a lot of
Not a lot
grant
of money,
money
no.
for the entire state, but it's a very narrow criteria that it's looking at, so we would
Right.
be a good fit.
It really fits. If you look at the description, it really fits perfectly. I think originally the governor talked about $7 million, and with all the budget stuff, they had to cut it in half. 3.5 is not a lot for statewide, but I think we're in a really good position to receive the grant.
This would be a big win. This would be great.
The term here in the summary information, shovel-ready business sites. We've heard shovel-ready business sites before in the past, and they never really came to fruition. Does the fact of where we are and the relationship we have in Medco, will that actually put us, like you said, a good foot in the door as far as this grant application?
the work that they've done gives us kind of a heads up, a little bit of a ahead of other sites probably. But again, with this funding, we'll be able to get everything that's really site ready for development. So again, it will just be it'll be the road work, it'll be the actual improvements on the land. So this is just kind of getting everything in place, setting the stage, and getting us to that
I
point.
think that where we are right now puts us a little higher on that list of hospital awardees.
I think so. Yeah, especially since Medco's already been a partner with us on the site characterization type stuff.
Good. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And water is all the way up to the airport and adjacent to the West End site. And I think sewer goes all the way to the large buildings there, the educational buildings. So it's ready.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the grant application for the Maryland Economic Development Corporation for the Business Site Improvement Grant and have the Commissioner President sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Next up, from the Department of Aging and Human Services, the fiscal year 2026 Long-Term Care and Dementia Care Navigation Notification of Grant Award. Lori Jennings Harris presenting. Welcome.
Thank
Morning,
you.
Lori.
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. I seem to have the tongue twisters all the time.
Yes.
So Commissioners, you previously approved the application for this grant, so this is the notice of this grant's award for FY26 starting July of this year through June 30th of next year. This is from the Maryland Department of Aging in the amount of $41,923. And so this grant and its funds help us to support individuals who are exhibiting symptoms of dementia or specifically Alzheimer's disease to help keep them active in the community, as well as their care partners. So we have what is called a Memory Cafe, which is offered at the Garvey Senior Activity Center the second Tuesday of every month in the afternoon. And it helps to engage not just the person exhibiting those symptoms, but their care partners, so they have activities and programs that they can enjoy together.
Where are these services carried out? Are they carried out in the home, or are they carried out in nursing center or nursing home? Or?
So it's mostly for people who are at home to help keep those individuals at home and active and engaged.
Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the FY 2026 LTCDCN Notification of Grant Award Project Number MD2642, received from the Maryland Department of Aging on behalf of the St. Mary's County Department of Aging and Human Services in the amount of $41,923, and authorize the Commissioner President to execute the related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any disapproval? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, from the Department of Public Works and Transportation, the St. Clements Island Museum Project Budget Amendment Approvals. Acting Director Donnie Mills, Deputy Gary Whipple, and CFO Vanetta Van Cleve for support. Welcome.
Mr. Weiskopf. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
So today we are here requesting a budget amendment to fund the construction of the St. Clements Island Museum. We presented two options, reallocate funds from the Shannon Farm project or allocate funds from the Finn.
How much you get in the Finn?
Currently, we have $2,275,579 available for the bond funding.
And the additional needed here is $1.9 million. What?
1.914828.
So that's the additional over what was budgeted for this museum several years ago.
That's over what the FY26 approved budget is. So the budget has developed over time. I mean, the last reference point we had was the FY23 appeal about 3 years ago, where we synced everything up for the current scope of the building, a brand-new two-story building.
Right.
And we've been running those numbers since that time.
Okay, now tell me, I remember that was actually the calendar year FY '22.
Yes, sir.
So it's been like 3 years ago, we approved this project and we were moving it forward.
Correct.
And I know we had a budget at that time. I think we even got a bond initiative approved for it. And we never moved forward because we didn't move forward with the bids. What took so long? Why has it took 3 years to get this
So
thing to this point?
the museum is on DNR property, so part of it was getting the approval to modify the lease to actually to build the building on that site. That was probably one of the larger hangups. We went to the Planning Commission in September of '22 to get the approval of the Planning Commission. We still didn't have the DNR approval to get the permit to finish everything. So that held up some significant progress at that point. And then there were some design contract issues that we had to resolve with the architect to get the design contract squared up. So there were some concurrent delays that were going on through that period. And last fall is where we really got into the zone where we were ready to, put this out on the street. And I would say it was a very good move for us to have the bid period for 5 weeks as was advocated for this project, because you can see kind of the results of that. You give them time. We had 3 or 4 rounds of questions, had a lot of clarification, a lot of interest. Even at the pre-bid meeting, there were a lot of contractors that showed up that we were encouraged to see at that meeting. And we received 9 bids. And if you throw out the high and low and you average, the rest of them, you had a pretty good scatter shot of what contractors say is the risk to build this now. And so the most accurate construction estimate is the bid. And so we have a good number now for what we have to move forward to take down the existing museum and replace it with a.
So what was the original estimate? It was originally, because we're talking now of $4,461,000. Was it
Right.
originally?
I think 4.4 was the
2
original, sir, and now it's like 6.3.
Okay. So the original was 4.4.
Right.
And then now it's 6.3. I guess my concern is what happens with other projects that have been approved, sheriff's headquarters, evidence storage building or support building, whatever you call that stuff. What happens with those bids going forward? Because this is just an indicator of, after 3 years, we've got almost a 33% increase.
Well, the concern certainly is, do we have an accurate estimate from our design consultant? So what we're doing with the headquarters buildings, we're going to get a third-party independent cost estimate to help us sync up those numbers as we move along. So for a project of that magnitude, you want to expend that. You want to have someone take the bid documents or the permit set and give you a really good rundown of what they say the risk is. So that's one way to avoid issues of this nature, where you have your designer at a different understanding of risk than the people actually bidding the job. And the designer said that there seems to be a high concern about the mechanical, electrical, and site work on this project that they didn't anticipate. So, and that represents about half of the difference that we're making up, just the mechanical, electrical, and site contractor costs. So different opinions of risk.
Again, at the end of the day, it's the taxpayer or the county who has to pay this bill. And when I look at what you're talking about with these estimates versus bid values, the plumbing was initially $57,000, doubled to $125. The HVAC $332, $430. I mean, these things went up dramatically. And thermal and moisture protection, I'm not sure what that is, and you don't have to explain it to me. But that was originally at $161,000, came in at $534,000. I mean, these types of things are either our designer doesn't know what he's doing, that group is not giving us a good service, because that is way off from what it actually cost. So those are the types of things I think we need to be concerned about. Now, back to, and I'll shift from you, Mr. Whipple, over to Ms. Van Cleve. So back to the fin. If we have $2 million in the fin, what are things we typically use the fin for? I kind of have a few in my mind, but tell me what if we deplete the fin, where does that harm us potentially going forward?
So my review of the fin over the last few years, it's been used as a holding place, which has been funded mainly through savings on capital
Projects that have come in less. This one
Right.
doesn't seem to be one of those.
And then those funds have been used for the projects that come in more at the commissioner's discretion. So if the commissioners determined to utilize this, the fin would be down to $361,000, which is higher than it's been in the last couple of years. The reason it's so high right now is the decision not to move forward with the RAC. So that's why there's excess funding in there right
But
now.
if there was 300,000 in the fin, that would still be higher than it has been for many years.
It fluctuates, but at fiscal year end, it's typically been lower than that, correct?
But I think the thing we got to keep an eye on here is we got projects coming forth, and if they fall into this same mode of what we're dealing with here, I mean, can we do some kind of take some from Shannon Farms and some from the fin? Does it have to all come from one place or the other? Can it be a mixture of two?
It could be a mixture. I would have to, defer to you and to DPW what that would look like.
I'd prefer not to take it from Shannon Farms if we could avoid that, because we've got that project finally headed in a good path too, and
we already pushed Shannon Farms once.
we already pushed it,
The
and
only thing about Shannon Farms is, we're doing so much in the Lexington Park area, and we're doing nothing in the north end of the county. I mean, we've done the Passive Park, we've done Willows Recreation Center, we're doing the YMCA, we got Elms Beach down there, and even though people will say it's crowded, but I mean, what do they have in northern part of the county that we can do recreation?
And we got gas stations.
Well, my point is maybe it has something to do with representation and what they've put forth for that area as far as recreation. is
I
concerned.
see one of the biggest things I see is right here in the CIP description. In 21 and 22, additional funding was provided as the project significantly changed. And that's the problem that we run into with any of these projects, the sheriff's headquarters being one of them, is and we get something on paper and everybody's happy with it, and someone else comes in, well, let's have an idea man comes in, and next thing you know, we're 18 months back. And 18 months and, 33% more cost?
But I think the key is, Commissioner, is that what we start out where we got an idea, and we've got a designer that says you can do your idea for this much money.
In 2022, we could have done it for
But
that
then
much
by the
more.
time we put it out in the street, it's gone up so much.
Because public sector, and according to JMT's little write-up here, public sector project requirements. These include increased regulatory compliance, documentation, reporting, inspections, and meetings.
Well, again, the thing that struck me was the cost of plumbing, HVAC, electrical, thermal, moisture
Those are
protection.
huge increases. I mean,
Yeah, they were big. I just think we're going to continue to have that activity going forth, whatever we consider. But I'd still say I don't want to deplete the fin to a point where we put it all. I mean, I'm for this project. Again, I think this is another amenity for the northern part of the county, for 7th District, that needs to be done.
It ties in with other projects too, with the state and the Fort.
I agree.
Fort to 400
It's just where the money comes from. That's the key.
Yes, I get you.
so I think, this isn't really a debate about the value of Shannon Farms right now, but this is the point of the fin, to cover projects like this, and as Ms. Van Cleve said, we'll still have sufficient funding in there, and as other projects.
I don't know that I said sufficient. It depends on what comes up in the
That's
future.
true.
I'm
But
sorry,
as
I
other
just was
projects
as relative
finish,
to
there may
this.
be other funding that's swept back into it too. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay.
Other projects may be swept back in, correct?
Yes.
But the RAC was the thing, we canceled it. That's where we got this big windfall from.
Right.
And by taking that windfall and putting it to one source, I just don't think that's a great idea. I don't mind putting a portion of it there.
well, my question would be, okay, if we were to do a portion of it, right? My question is, what does that do to Shannon Farm? Are we now pushing it out a year? What How long of a delay now are we looking at for Shannon
So
Farm?
my understanding with Shannon Farm, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that all of the design work is done, and this year it's going to Critical Area Commission for approval, and then we need to find whatever remaining funds are needed in order to complete it, and it's out 2 years. If our income tax revenues continue to come in at a higher rate, we're going to end up with a massive fund balance at the end of this year. I would love to see us be able to take some of that at the end of this year and move up Shannon Farms and get it moving next year.
Well, that's a decision to be made at a
That
later time.
is. So I
But
don't
the-
want to handicap Shannon Farms by taking away what funding we have allocated right now.
Well, I still say we got enough going on in Lexington Park.
Well, I mean, you've
mid part
never
of the county
supported this
already,
project.
and not enough going on in the northern part. So
I agree with that too, but we don't have much waterfront property up in the northern part of the county. unfortunately.
Exactly.
And this Shannon Farms, what I've seen of it, is going to be a valuable resource for all the people to use, and I don't want to impede it too much.
I still
really
say it's a mile, 1.2 miles to the water. That's a long walk.
We all need a little exercise.
Please. I don't doubt
I'm a
that.
strong walker, so I don't mind walking 1.2
But let's
miles
just
at all.
say you're going to take your family and kids and everything, you're going to walk 1.2 miles to the waterfront and find out, well, I forgot the diaper bag back at the car. Well, let's go. Let's walk 1.2 miles back, get it, walk 1.2 miles back, and we're going to enjoy a day at the beach.
You'll be a good, healthy person.
Or you get your kids down there, you get them tired from in the sun and all the activity, and say, okay, let's take a hike. We're walking 1.2 miles back to the car. Look, I just think that is a great concept.
Better have a good checklist.
I think it
before
works
you leave
over
the
in
car.
Calvert County. They have multiple beachfront parks that have long walks
Long walks,
to the.
yeah.
Again, I don't know if it's going to be that beneficial.
Plus, it's a good natural. I
Small
walk through the woods with these
All
people all the
kids
way
do.
to the water. It's going to be a great natural nature walk. It's going to be
All
great.
right, well, I move to approve and authorize the Commissioner President to sign the budget amendment transferring funds as identified from the capital reserve to the St. Clements Island Museum project.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
No.
One nay. Ayes have it.
Well, I hope those projects come in on budget, sir. We'll be looking at you.
Under. Under. Way under.
Well, I don't have a lot of confidence.
Plus the contingency.
Next up is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. and
Thank you.
Mr. Next up is from the Department of Finance with the authorization to award St. Clements Island Museum construction. Procurement Manager Brandon Hayden.
All right.
Along with CFO Vanetta Van Cleef for support.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brandon.
So we're seeking concurrence to award the St. Clements Island Museum construction project. St. Clements Island Museum construction solicitation was posted to the eMaryland Marketplace Advantage on February 3rd, where 2,664 potential bidders were notified of the solicitation. Additional bidders were notified on the county website. A pre-bid meeting was held on February 19th, followed by a site visit on February 27th. 6 amendments were posted to answer questions and respond to requests for additional information. 9 bids were received before the bid opening date of June 11th at 3 p.m., and we are seeking your concurrence to award the St. Clements Island Museum construction project to WM Davis Incorporated in an amount estimated to exceed $1 million, subject to receipt and acceptance of contract-related documents.
Mr. Hayden, couple points. First off, contracts always seems to be the button that we push when it feels like things are taking too long. But you save us money and you keep us out of trouble by making sure that these things are done right. So thank you for that. That's good.
Thank you.
Also, second point, I'm excited to see that we are able to award this one to a local company that we know, that we trust, that we've seen the work of. That's a good thing, and that's good for St. Mary's County and our citizens.
No, I agree. Getting a local bidder or a local builder, I mean, to do this is an excellent benefit to the county.
Yep, we think local companies can be very competitive on stuff the county bids out,
Good.
and this proves it.
Good to hear.
All right, I move to authorize the procurement officer to award the St. Clements Island Museum construction project to WM Davis Incorporated in an amount estimated to exceed $1 million, subject to receipt and acceptance of contract-related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
All right. When can we throw shovels in the ground?
I'm bad with dates. I'll let Donnie and Gary answer that one.
That's it, Commissioner President.
County Administrator time? All right. Well, in that case, we go right into Commissioner's time. We'll start with Commissioner Hewitt this time.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Commissioner President. Well, wrapped up the Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department Carnival this week. And I want to thank all the people who went. I know my wife and her ladies auxiliary worked really hard with what they did. The heat was intense. Thank God those people who ran those rides and cooked that food and was there for those games were there to do it. And hopefully it'll be a great event or fundraising event for that department. Attended the Bay District Rescue Squad, Lexington Park Rescue Squad at the Bay District Firehouse installation of officers. Want to thank all those officers and who are going out, and new ones coming in. Lord knows it's a challenging job that they do, and God bless them, and thank God we have them. Now, we talked today about, doing text amendments to maybe do something about commercial businesses that happen in the county, and gas stations, fuel facilities being one. And Lord knows I was in that industry for a long time. I'm retired. I still own the property and whatnot. But the bottom line is I understand the evolution of business. It's kind of like, well, if I was a typewriter person or owned a typewriter company, I would have been, upset when the computers came along and word processors came along. But it's just natural evolution. And what's always been the thing about America is our love affair with cars and being mobile and being able to go places and, drive to the beach, drive to the mountains, go on vacation, get in our cars and go. Whenever there's a major holiday, to go visit relatives, to go wherever they're going. And the bottom line is that all revolves around people needing fuel, needing whatever they need to do that, to enjoy that, freedom that allows them to do whatever they want to do. And I don't like to think about anything that restricts it. Now, I'm not opposed to saying, hey, look, I need to take a look at it. Is there a need? And I do think some kind of a need assessment would not be a bad idea. I worry that the people who spend the money on doing those needs assessments have proprietary information. They have stuff that they've done that they don't want their competitors to know about. But at the end of the day, competition is good for the consumer. It keeps prices down. It keeps margins down. I have to say that anything that restricts that or makes us want to say, well, we don't want this to evolve better. Look, Rural Farms is known for their chicken. I play pitch with a 93-year-old partner on Mondays, and she told me yesterday she's had the best fried chicken she's ever had, and she's a well-known cook. She said it's better than her fried chicken. And I couldn't believe it. But the key is it's not so much we need fuel. Everybody needs it. It's like groceries. Everybody needs groceries. I mean, again, we got to be careful about what we decide needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. Now, this commissioner overwhelmingly has heard from people that we need more recreational activities. We need more things for our kids to do. And I totally agree with that. I've been a big supporter of the YMCA on Great Mills Road. That site, people have said, hey, look, that's not the best site. But my vision has always been 3 of them. And I believe one in Charlotte Hall next to the senior center would be phenomenal for this county and for those residents up there. It's something that requires vision. It's something that requires working towards it, but it requires someone putting that idea forth. Now, it should come from somebody who represents that area. It should come with support from state delegation or state support. But whatever it does, whatever it looks like, if it's a Rex and Parks swimming pool or whatever it is, the northern part of the county needs more recreational activity. We are seeing our proliferation of commercial establishments up there. Whether it's a Starbucks, a Chipotle's, a Weiss, rural farms, these different things we see up there. Hey, look, I don't think they're bad for the county. I don't think they're bad for those communities. It's just giving people more choices, which I believe at the end of the day is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Very good, thank you. Well, last week there was a little bit of excitement in St. Mary's County. A bear was spotted. It happens every so often that a bear will swim across the river. To my knowledge, I don't believe they caught the bear or seen the bear too recently, but it was exciting. And recommendation, if you see the bear, just let it be. Let it go on its way. It was exciting. Also, want to give congratulations to Ed Rothstein. He is a Carroll County Republican commissioner. We've gotten to know him through MACO, and he was appointed by the governor to be the Department of Veterans and Military Families Director. He's a former commander of Fort Meade. He's a good man, and it's good for the state, and it's good for St. Mary's County with our Charlotte Hall Veterans Home here. He will be great in that role, so it's exciting to see them. I don't always agree with the governor on all his decisions, but that was a good decision to appoint him. Next week, next Tuesday, we've got a public forum on the 29th. Come on out and talk to us. Looking forward to it. St. Clements Island Museum was awarded today to W.M. Davis. It's good to see a local company win that award. That's awesome, and it's good to finally see some progress being made on this long-standing project, and we'll be able to get shovels in the ground soon and get that moving. That's good. Finally, I want to end on the Ridge Lions Club is planning to bring Optimus Prime, the Transformer truck, back to St. Mary's County this October. They brought him here several years ago, and he does a big anti-bullying campaign. They are looking for sponsors to be able to help sponsor these anti-bullying messages in our schools. So if you are interested in donating to a good cause and helping out, you can get in touch with them. It's going to be really good. Apparently when he came last time, he was in the Veterans Day Parade, and he had an event at the Naval Air Museum, and that day was their largest daily attendance ever because of that. So it was really good. I think they're setting up an even bigger event this time. It's going to be exciting to see that happen. So good work to them, and look forward to seeing it. Sure. Thanks.
You're next.
All right, thanks, sir. So, it's good to be back. I have been the absentee commissioner here for a while. Like I said last week in my commissioner time via Zoom, that I had been engaged in working with a local business who was running into a little bit of an issue, and got that squared away and got the water smoothed and got them up and running again the way at full speed, which is great. It's a great testament to the teamwork that we have within the county, that we can come together and make things work and get to yes, like what we want to do for businesses like that. I want to thank everybody for once again for all your expressions of sympathy to our family with the passing of my father-in-law. But this right here, this is what we need. This is what I need. My wife needs busy hands, and we both got our hands full of stuff. And I'm just happy to be back. So we talked about a needs-based study possibility for gas stations. There's a couple other things I can think of that we can add to that. So instead of a company coming in and saying, "Hey, I want to do a fuel site, a fuel station," maybe we should start thinking of incentivizing businesses to come in and bring something that the community actually wants. I think fulfilling some of their wants goes a lot farther than serving a need sometimes. My community in the northern end of the county wants entertainment. They want recreation. But it is not the county's job to build a bowling alley for the county. It is our job I think, to incentivize businesses to want to come in and build a bowling alley, to want to come in and build a restaurant where people can actually eat their dinner or eat a lunch with a fork and a knife instead of with their hands out of a bag, because that does get tiresome. And I know the model now, like Commissioner Hewitt said, the model is now evolving to where gas stations have fuel sites to incentivize their customers to come in. So we need to, so basically, I think we should incentivize the customers, being builders, to come in and say, hey, let's put up, you know, a miniature golf course. You know, even if it's just a group of investors in the county pull their money together and say, hey, we want to do, you know, pickleball courts under a canopy. And we're looking to getting a franchise, company called Pickler does is a pickleball franchise. There's one over in Fredericksburg. Explore options like that as opposed to where we can, you know, fill up in gas and go in and grab a Monster and head up the road. But like I said, it's still not the county's job to be building a bowling alley, a laser tag, and stuff like this, or roller rink. We have a roller rink. You know, we can just maybe some more advertising for it. It's not the skate station of my youth. But we look at things like that, look at the bowling alley that we had in the past, look at the skate station, find out why they ended up closing their doors, and addressing those issues will help go a long way towards getting one back, something like that, back in the community and maintaining it and keeping it here for my kids and my children's children to eventually enjoy. But the biggest thing I see, I think, in county-wide, I know definitely on the north end of the county, it's just construction fatigue of seeing orange barrels up everywhere we go. Trying to get out of the county, I get it. I think if all the construction happened a little more gradually, people would have been mad because it's taken so long, but to have it all done at once seems almost as bad. And I would love to see, like Commissioner Hewitt said, and like I think all five of us agree, that we do need more opportunities in the north end of the county for entertainment and recreation, as opposed, instead of, you know, being able to go get a smoothie out of a vending machine in the backside of a gas station. This past weekend, I got tabbed to go to the Optimist Club barbecue. And we did a big barbecue, first time we'd ever done it, and it was not as big as a disaster as it could have been. But it was extremely successful. We started selling food at 11 o'clock, and we were completely sold out, I think right around 1:30. And the only thing we had left was pretty much pulled pork and pit beef. We did ribs, chicken, and Director Bivens can testify to how popular the ribs were, because he had to come up, prepay, leave, and go try to put out a brush fire at Chopticon for summer stock, and then had to come back and pick up his ribs. And I apologize again, Director, that I did not recognize him right off the bat, because he was completely out of uniform and out of context for me, with a ball cap and sunglasses and shorts. And you got everything squared away with summer stock, and it was good? Excellent. I do want to thank you and everybody else who came out to support us. It goes out towards our scholarship fund, which we recently increased from $6,000 to $8,000 a year for scholarships that we now give out through the club. Museum is finally going to happen. I just can't believe it. When we throw shovels in the ground and the old museum gets emptied out and torn down, then it'll really start to sink in. Looking forward to seeing it open. I'm disappointed in the time it has taken to get it to this point. I would hope that we could do better in the future for large projects where we don't have to worry about these huge cost overruns and big surprise bills at the end of the day. Just because, like I said, you get an idea person come in, well, let's do this. Well, there's, you know, another 3-4 months and a couple $100,000. And I think getting this done in time for Fort to 400, which I hope we can get it done in 9 years, we can get it done. It's going to be a vital part of the Fort to 400 program that the state is trying to put together. Next weekend, August 1st and 2nd, National Lawnmower Races return to Bowles Farms, sponsored by 7th District Volunteer Rescue Squad Auxiliary and 7th District Optimist Club. Look forward to seeing everybody come on out and enjoy that. It's good family fun. So, ready, set, mow, and I pass it on.
Scott. All right. Well, I do want to also kind of put my 2 cents in on. We did have a discussion about, you know, moratoriums or changes I too am very sensitive when it comes to anybody telling me or anybody else what you can or can't do with your property. I think people have the innate right to, if you own a piece of property and somebody wants to buy it, or you want to sell it, or you want to build something on it, you should be allowed to do so. I am going to steal that phrase from you, Commissioner Hewitt, to build a better mousetrap. I think that's innate to capitalism. That's what makes things work in our country. And I think while some people may think we have too much of one thing or the other, these companies, they do studies. They do know that it's going to be a success, or they wouldn't build it. So I think we need to keep that in mind. And I think it is true. The more we have of something, the more competition that there is, means that we can shop around and get a better bargain somewhere else or lower prices somewhere else. But I think it's very important that people be allowed to do what they want with their property. Speaking of, we talked about, the need for recreational activities. We definitely do need to see some more recreational activities in the northern part of the county. And I agree with Commissioner Alderson. It's not the county government's job to build these things and run these things, but we do need to find ways to encourage people to want to open a bowling alley or a miniature golf or whatever that is up there, so people can have more recreational activities. But I am happy to say that in the Lexington Park, California area, we have lots of fun things going on and happening. So, glad to see that we're going to be moving forward or not hindering the Shannon Farms development. We do have some great restaurants opening in both Lexington Park and California area. We just had the opening of the new Scramblers restaurant on 235 at the old IHOP. Absolutely fantastic food. My wife and I went there Friday. I was there past Friday. I was there for the grand opening on the soft opening on Thursday. Great food. You can go in, you can sit down, enjoy a great meal. Beautiful job what they've done with the interior of that. They completely gutted it. You wouldn't recognize it as being the old IHOP. They bake every morning. They bake their own fresh cinnamon rolls in-house. So, and they're huge. They are really quite delicious. So if you have an opportunity, go check out that. Go check out all the things that we have going on in California, Lexington Park area. Make sure you get out to the farmers markets. We have Red Barns. We have BAE parking lot. So great opportunities to go and shop local there. I was also privileged to attend on Saturday the 72nd Volunteer Rescue Squad Lexington Park officer installation and award ceremony. So big shout out to all of them. Thank you so much. I want to put a thank you out to all of our first responders throughout this entire county, fire department, rescue squad, sheriffs. Thank you so much for what you do and the sacrifices that both you and your family make to keep us safe. When we pick up that phone and call 911, somebody picks up that phone and we get somebody to our house very quickly to help many people in quite often the worst moments of their lives. So thank you so much for what you do. Summer stock. We have, it's not at Great Mills High School like it is usually. This year it's up at Chopticon, but it's only up there for 1 year only because they're replacing the HVAC at Great Mills, so they weren't able to have it there. I did have a conversation at the table with one of the moms who's a volunteer for the summer stock, and she's been doing it for many, many years. And they did say that they are seeing their numbers aren't quite as high this year as they have been in the past year, especially for the opening weekend. That's usually their biggest weekend, and they were down fairly significantly. So want to encourage everybody to get out. These kids or I shouldn't say kids, these young people put on a a great performance every year. My wife and I always go. Tarzan, my wife and I are going on Friday to see it. We're looking forward to doing that. So I encourage you, get out, support these young people. So we keep things like this in our community. If we don't go out and support this, and it doesn't make money, so at least they break even. These are things that we will lose in this community, and this is a community treasure that we have here. It is a phenomenal performance that these people put on every year. I would put it up against any off-Broadway show anywhere that you could go see. I mean, it's a really, really first-rate performance that they do every year. This coming Thursday, I believe it's Thursday, the Mall Dyer, it might be tomorrow actually, the Mall Dyer movie sneak preview at Social Coffee House from 4:30 to 7:30. So that looks to be very interesting. So if you have time, get out and see that. This or next week's on the 29th, we do have a public forum, and as I always say, please come out, tell us what your concerns are. If we don't know about it, if we don't know it's broken, we can't help fix it. So we can't always fix everything, but if we don't hear about it, and if you don't come out and let us know, we don't know. So please come out, stay informed, voice your opinion. And also this coming weekend, get out. I always say it, get out, shop local, enjoy beautiful St. Mary's County. And with that, I'm going to pass it on.
Thank you. Also, I'll make a little statement about what we voted on today. To me, I think we got too many laws and restrictions on building now. And for me, I'm thinking that our Land Use Growth Management, Planning Commission, Board of Appeals will make sure these developers and builders are doing the right thing and building them in the right place. And I have faith in all that. So I want to keep it going like that. I believe we are a capitalistic type of society, and the demands are there. These builders wouldn't be building these things. So I'm all for keeping it going as it is. I also want to say Ed Reinstein, his appointment to the VA at the state is a great move. I worked with him for several years now. He's been on the board for MACO, which I've been on, the legislative committee, and he's a great guy. Retired. Of course, I got one thing against him. He's a retired colonel from the Army. But other than that, he's a great guy. And he's been very much involved in veterans issues for many, many years. And I think it was a great pick. The governor did a correct thing this time for sure. And looking forward to working with him. I do also want to bring up that the summer stock, I went to the 3 p.m. performance on Sunday. It was a great performance. These young kids really put their heart and soul into it. Shout out to the young lady who played Jane. My gosh, she had a great voice. She could really sing. It was really a great performance. Of course, I got to admit, I sort of like Cinderella last year better. But other than that, I'm going to pick things out. But it was what these young kids go through, what they do, and the stage setup and everything else. It's worth going to see. And we had a pretty good crowd Sunday. I think it was a pretty good crowd there for that. So I'm not sure about the rest of the performances, but Sunday was a good showing. And a shout out to the August 1st and 2nd, when we have the lawnmower races. If you've never seen them up at Bowles Farm right there in Clemens, you need to go. It's just amazing to see these people who jump on these fast-moving lawnmowers to go around this dirt track and race. And some of it's very competitive. Some of these young people come from miles away. I mean, it's all states away, not just our own local people. These are from all over the country. So it's amazing to watch. So do show it. I had a great thing Saturday. I went to the St. Mary's River Yacht Club summer dinner, and they honored Tiny Taylor. She's the Taylor Gas Company, Harry might say, and she, on the 16th of August this year, turns to be 100 years old. So I gave her accommodation for that, and and I wish her many, many more years. I don't know how many more years she's got, but she's doing extremely well for somebody's. And the reason I'm saying all this is that her family, her maiden name is Abel, and my grandmother was an Abel. So I'm hoping that some of that blood is running in my stream. I do hope. But shout out to Tiny, and she's looking good and doing very well for somebody who's 100 years old. So with that being said, we end this meeting now.